Well, it's that time of year again. Time for my obligatory end of the year list. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? This is Sean of Ross Like Music. Today I want to talk about my top 7 favorite albums of 2022. Why only 7? Well, because I ended up not buying that many 2022 releases this year. Number 1, due to the rising cost of records in Japan, it's just become prohibitively expensive to keep up with all the releases, so I generally have to wait until either A, they go on sale, or B, a used copy shows up. But compounding everything was the fact that my salary went down this year, so it just became borderline impossible for me to keep up with all the releases that were coming out. There's still a ton of stuff that I'd really like to pick up. It's just gonna have to wait until either my funds start going up, the cost of the record goes down. So let's just figure out which one happens first. Nevertheless, there were still some great releases that I picked up this year, and today I want to share them with you. Kicking off with my number 7, Suff Daddy's Basically Sober. A more or less fine record. It's not anything super amazing to write home about, despite the fact that his previous record, Pompette, was so bogged down with just mediocre vocalists and MCs on a good portion of the tracks. I do feel like the productions were a little bit more interesting on that album. That being said, it's still a fine beat project. There's no getting around the fact that Suff Daddy doesn't seem like he's going back to sampling anytime soon, which is a real shame. I think his sampling prowess is really what made his earlier stuff a hell of a lot more interesting. But his melodic sensibilities, his drum patterns, his production, it's all solid stuff. I generally enjoy this project. It doesn't grip me the ways that some of his albums in the past have, but it's still an overall interesting, basically instrumental hip-hop record. So, and if you haven't checked this guy out, yeah, you might want to. So yeah, that's my number 7 choice. Coming in at number 6, we have Rum Tum's Isles in Indigo, a very, very solid ambient hip-hop project. I really like ambient synthscapes, and I really like instrumental hip-hop, so this was basically the best of both worlds. Once again, kind of like Suff Daddy, it didn't quite grip me the way that I had hoped it had, but still, I find it a really pleasant listen. I still love throwing it on from time to time, and I still find it a great album to sort of just pop on whenever I can't think of what to listen to. So yeah, Rum Tum, Isles in Indigo, Bastard Jazz. If you haven't checked this guy out, recommend it. It's alright. Coming in at number 5, we've got J-Rock's Wonderful Letter, released on Stone's Throw this year. I was super excited for this record. I was a huge fan of some cold rock stuff, which if you saw, those were 2 records I actually ended up doing reviews for this year after I slowed down on my video output. And yeah, I really dig this project. I think J-Rock is kind of an underrated producer. His beats on here are super solid. I like the fact that he shows off a wide range, be it just straight hip-hop or some like G-funk sort of stuff, some more dance music and house music stuff. And again, much like a lot of projects these days, especially when it's a producer doing a showcase album, my one real complaint with this is it's just bogged down with some really meh appearances by vocalists and rappers, specifically Frank Nitty's contribution. This is the same Frank Nitt shit that he's been doing for basically since he's been introduced to the world, and it's never been my thing. Some people seem to like it. I never have. I've always just thought it was juvenile and not clever and not interesting. But that being said, there's still a lot of enjoyment with this record, and I hope that J-Rock keeps putting out projects like this. So if you haven't checked this one out, yeah, make sure you do so, because good shit on here. Coming in at number 4, we have Stro Elliott's Black and Loud, James Brown reimagined by Stro Elliott. I really dig this project. Stro Elliott has always been one of my favorite beat makers, right next to guys like Tall Black Guy, J Dilla, Madlib, and all those other greats. But Stro Elliott really does show off that not only is he an amazing beat maker, but he's also a really good just song maker. The tracks on here don't just feel like beats, they feel like actual tracks. And the sort of love and respect that he's showing to James Brown while still putting his own own Stro Elliott spin on this record is just utterly phenomenal. So expect to hear some absolutely amazing drums, some amazingly tasteful James Brown sampling on here. And truth be told, there really isn't a song on here that I dislike. So yeah, if you never checked this guy out, make sure you do so, as it's definitely one of the better projects this year. And it probably would have ended up higher on the list if it wasn't for my number 3, which is going to be Stimulator Jones' Round Spiritual Ring. I absolutely love this album. I may have picked this guy up fairly recently, but I have listened to it almost nonstop, and I love it basically from front to back. He hits so many notes on this, whether he's still doing the boogie funk stuff, he's doing some low down nasty R&B stuff, he's doing some like Puerto Rican freestyle stuff, he's doing like hard rock on here, and it all just comes off so genuine. Like a lot of times artists, when they're doing this kind of music, it feels sort of like parody, but you can genuinely get the sense that Stimulator Jones loves this type of music and he's doing it from the heart. And everything on here, from the lyrics, the melodies, the production, it's just an all-around fantastic project. And after so many years of kind of, if there's one review that I wish I could redo, it would probably be the 2018 Stimulator Jones debut album, because I've grown to love that project, and I think it is probably in no small part to this album right here. I highly recommend this. If you pick up anything on this list today, I definitely recommend that you get this guy. All right, coming in at number 2 had to be, I mean, I already gushed about this in that one video, which you can go check out over here. But yeah, I finally picked it up. There it is. That's that Utada Hikaru Bad Mode album. And like, I've actually listened to a good portion of this record, and I can honestly tell you that the rest of the songs on here aren't up to the caliber of Somewhere in Marseille, Bad Mode, and Kiba no Janai no. And I still fucking love this album. It's so goddamn good, because those 3 songs are legitimately 3 of the best songs I've heard this year. Not only 3 of the best songs that I've heard this year, 3 of the best songs that I've heard in probably like the last 5 years. Floating Point's production on here is otherworldly good, and the sincerity and the just raw emotion that Utada Hikaru pumps into those productions is just second to none. There is absolutely, as far as I've heard this year, nothing like those 3 songs on here. And for those 3 songs alone, I have to recommend this project, and I have to put it here. And quite honestly, I was gonna put this at my number 1, but I'm gonna cheat. My number 1 favorite album this year is the goddamn Elden Ring soundtrack. Yeah, I am totally throwing in a curveball here. I absolutely love this soundtrack. It has some of the best songs that I've heard from any From Software project, and that's including the gloriousness of the Sekiro soundtrack and Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 was my number 1, but it's been ousted by Elden Ring, and that's because of amazing tracks like the Godskin Apostle, Placiduous Sax, Millennia's theme, Renala's theme. Like, I'm going to, at some point, once I can motivate myself, do a Elden Ring boss theme ranking. But just those ones alone are some of the finest pieces of music I've heard all year. And much like the Utada Hikaru, those are tracks that are going to stick with me for a long period of time. And honestly, I think that's sort of the criteria that I end up using whenever I do one of these kinds of videos, is I try to think of stuff that I think is going to last for years to come. And the soundtrack from Elden Ring, I think, is going to stick with me long past 2022. So with all that being said, that's why I got to put the Elden Ring OST as my favorite thing for 2022. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've listened to any of the things that I talked about in this video today, please let me know what you thought about them down in the comments. If you want to hear some of these selections for yourself, please head over to my WordPress blog, because that's where I post links to any of the music that I talk about on this channel. And make sure you follow me over on Twitch for Live from the Record Room. There, I play records like the ones that I talk about in these videos, as well as a whole host of records in my collection that I don't get a chance to talk about on this channel. Links to everything, as always, always, down in the description. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks, as always, for watching. Catch you in the new year. Hopefully, I'll get back to some sort of regular upload schedule. Don't really count on it. I'm a little bit unmotivated these days. But if I do, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Love you guys. Happy New Year. Catch you later.
Peace!